Hi, my name is Tiffany and I'm a teen librarian for Fresno County Public Library. I'd like to welcome you to our brand new digital Summer at Your Library program. We may look a little different, but we still have the same amount of fun offered for June and July. I'd like to take this time to remind everyone to visit our website at fresnolibrary.org/summer. There you can find a lot more information on all the fun stuff we have offered for Fresno County, such as grab-and-go lunches for kids and teens, take and make crafts for teens, and a reading program for all ages. Again, go ahead and stop by fresnolibrary.org/summer for more information. Enjoy the show. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Michelle and I'm here from Have Fork Will Travel for the Fresno County Summer at the Library sessions. Today's episode is going to be Don't Fear the Spice Aisle. So I'm not a chef, but I am an adventurous eater and I'm an all-around food groupie. I know most of us are cooking more than we used to, and after a while even your most favorite food or dish can get a little bit boring. So an inexpensive way to liven things up and change them up just a bit are to try different spices. So we're going to cover a few of 4 or 5 of the most popular herbs and spices as a way to change up your meals, make them a little bit more flavorful, and put a new twist on things. So we're going to go from there, and if you have any questions afterwards, you can always email me at my website and I'll do my best to answer them. So herbs and spices are similar but different. So an herb is a leafy part of the plant, and spices are the bark, roots, nuts, or seeds of the plant. So it's the easy way of keeping track of it, is the herbs or the green parts. Some plants actually have both. So we're going to start with cilantro and coriander, which are off the same plant. Coriander is a member of the parsley family, and it's one of those plants that you can eat the leaves, the seeds, and the roots. So mostly what we use here in the United States are the leaves and the seeds. They are not interchangeable and they have different flavors. We're going to start off with the coriander seed, which is this here. You can have it either ground or whole. So coriander was mentioned in the Bible and has been found in ruins dating back to 5000 BC and has been found in tombs of the pharaohs. It was introduced to Britons by the Romans and was used for food and medicine up through the Renaissance. After that, they found records showing that in Massachusetts it was growing quite freely around 1600. So 400 to 500 years here in the United States that anybody has documented. Coriander is also one of the plants that is really good to plant if you want to attract honeybees. So in this day and age, it's easy to grow and attracts something that will benefit everyone. We need as much help keeping the bees around as we can. So coriander is a nice citrusy smell and flavor, kind of lemony. It's warm and earthy and it's good for a lot of baked goods. You can use it in sauces or with meat and poultry. It's a nice way to add a little bit of citrus flavor without a lot of kick, but it is a little spicy at times, and if you toast it or infuse it in oil, you're going to be able to disperse the flavor a little bit better and bring out a little bit more earthiness and depth. So one of the benefits of coriander is you can add a little flavor punch to most of the dishes that you're making. It is quite extensive as far as the cuisines it's used in. I like using it in my baked goods especially. It adds a little bit extra without anybody being able to pinpoint exactly what gives it that little extra flavor punch. So you can also use it as part of a way to settle your stomach. You can use it in part of a tea, like in a chai, or to chew on a few seeds to help settle a stomach. So the other part of the plant is cilantro. Cilantro is a really nice, pretty little plant. It's fairly easy to grow. It is used extensively in Mexican and Asian cooking, also in Indian cooking as well. However, there are some people that unfortunately have a genetic disposition, so cilantro tastes like soap to them. I do not have that, and I'm very grateful. So as you can see, it looks somewhat like parsley. You can use it in place of flat parsley for some things, but it does have a little bit more flavor to it. However, unlike parsley, you can use the whole plant. When you are dicing up or mincing parsley leaves, you generally want to pull them off the stem because the stems are very woody. With cilantro, if you're dicing everything up or cooking, you can use the whole plant and it provides more flavor. And that's also something to keep in mind. If you're just using the leaves, you can save the stems for later and freeze them, and they'll be really good put into a soup or as a way of flavoring a broth without having a lot of extra leafy greens in there. So a few more tidbits about coriander and cilantro. So coriander is used in a lot of the Indian blends like garam masala and also curries and chutneys. Checking my notes because I don't want to forget anything for you guys. Both actually coriander and cilantro work well with citrus, and especially for the coriander because it already has the citrus notes in it. In other parts of the world, coriander refers to the whole plant. So it depends who you're speaking to. You might need to clarify whether it's coriander seed or coriander leaf or the recipe. So it always helps to dig a little bit deeper if you're not sure, because they really aren't interchangeable in flavor or the application in a recipe. But in the US, we refer to them as the two separate names. It's a little bit easier, but if you go to the store to buy a batch of cilantro, it does have a distinctive smell. Always double check just to make sure it's cilantro, not flat parsley. Sometimes they are accidentally mislabeled. So one other tidbit about coriander seeds is they are used in brewing certain styles of beer, especially Belgians. They bring a nice little banana bread kind of balance to it and give it a little bit more life, so to speak. The coriander seeds are used with orange peel to give it more of a citrus character as well. So if you have like a Blue Moon, that's probably going to have been brewed with coriander seeds in there along with the orange rinds. Again, that gives it that nice kind of a summery, light, citrusy feel to it. Makes it a little bit more enjoyable and gives you a little bit extra oomph for the palate. And I think there's one other bit of information I wanted to give you guys. Again, there's a lot of information out there. Oh, yep, the important part. So cilantro is rich in calcium, iron, beta-carotene, and vitamin C. It's one of the few foods that can help the body remove heavy minerals from the central nervous system. So unless you're one of the people that it tastes like soap, I would recommend buying a bunch and experimenting with it. It is better fresh. When you dry out the coriander, it does lose flavor. It also is one of the spices and herbs that you want to add later in the recipe because it can kind of dissipate rapidly. The flavor might be there, but it's still better to add it later as opposed to beginning or middle. If you're not sure, read the recipe. If you're just trying things out to see where you like it, I would probably try it later, and then you can always move it a little bit early in the recipe depending on your tastes and quantities. Alright, so the next one we're going to go to is cumin. Now, cumin is one of the herbs and spices that people mention the most when I was asking around to see what people wanted to find out about. It is a very common spice, and it's used in a lot of different things. The main ones are like barbecue, rubs, chili. Pretty much any cuisine has cumin in there. It's a good backbone and earthy flavor to round out the flavor profile, especially for chili. Without it, it would just be kind of a one-note thing. Cumin adds a little bit extra depth of flavor. So with any of the spices, if it's in the seed form or the pod form, you're going to pick up that much flavor if you toast it in a bare pan over low heat for a few moments, probably 2 to 3, 5 minutes tops. Make sure you keep it moving. I would recommend using a wood spoon and then testing it with your hand when it feels hot to your hand or really warm, then it's done. When you're toasting spices, don't walk away. They can burn in an instant because they do have volatile oils in them, and at that point you have to start over. So a little bit on cumin. In the Middle Ages, it was believed that cumin kept chickens and lovers from running away. I'm not sure how, but it was believed to be a spice of loyalty or fealty. Cumin seeds have also been around since ancient times. The ancient Egyptians used them as a spice and as a preservative of mummification. So it was also used to pay taxes. So at one point, spices were very expensive and they were used as bartering or a form of payment. Cumin is actually one of the few herbs that was very popular at the time and has been around for quite a while. So even when spices were very expensive, cumin was probably one of the more readily available ones, and therefore a little bit lower in cost and was able to be used more. So according to this, it was grown primarily back in the day in Upper Egypt and the Mediterranean. So that gives you an idea of how far it's come. There are a lot of the spices that have migrated from the Middle East or India to Europe and to our neck of the woods simply by the spice trade and the global growth that has happened, so that we can try all kinds of cuisines pretty much any time now. It's a really nice time to be alive because we have so many lovely food, veggies, and spices available. So again, back to the seeds and the pods. You can toast them to get the flavor a little bit deeper, or you can add them to oil or at the beginning part of the cooking for the seeds to infuse the dish with that. If you want to put the flavor in the dish but not have to worry about fishing out the seeds afterward, you can get a small piece of cheesecloth, tie them up in that with a piece of kitchen twine, and put it in the broth or the dish and treat it similar to a tea bag. That way when you're all done, you're ready to finish the dish and serve it, you can just pull the spices out. You don't have to worry about somebody accidentally biting into a seed or a pod and crunching. It's an easy way to do it. If you're going to use a blender, it doesn't matter at that point because it's going to be broken up in there. But it is a way of adding, again, extra depth of flavor in a very easy way. So with cumin, it does have kind of a pungent smell, but it is actually a little on the sweet side. So it's earthiness with a little bit of sweetness, and it's a good way to, again, round out whether it's chili, barbecue sauce, soups, just about anything. I know it's used in adobos. Every cuisine seems to have it mixed in there somewhere. So if you're not sure about the spice level or how strong it is, you can mix it in a little bit and see how you like it. It can be a little overpowering, so if you're not sure, you can always start a little bit slow, mix some in, try it. You can always add a little bit more. That's the easy way to go, because remember, once you put it in, you can't take it out. So onto the healthy part, or the health part of cumin. It helps keep your immune system healthy. They're a very good source of manganese and also a good source of calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, and B1. So they also are used along with fennel seeds to help with digestion. So for intestinal gas or upset stomach, it has been used for that as well in the past. I just like it because it tastes good and adds a good amount of flavor to all my dishes. So next we're going to go on to fennel. Fennel is an edible perennial plant. It's both a vegetable, an herb, and a spice. And this one's kind of sad. I've had it in the fridge longer than I should, so it's going to be part of dinner tonight. But as you can see, the fronds are very lacy and light. And then it goes down to a bulb that you can actually eat the whole plant. It's a member of the celery and carrot family, and as you can tell, again, this is similar to what celery stalks look like, so that's a good way to help tell as well. It is native to Mediterranean regions initially. but as you can tell from any grocery store, it's become quite popular. The ancient Greeks considered it a godly food, and it was believed to help convey knowledge and help with eyesight. I don't know about that, but I do know that I like eating it, so either way it works out. So fennel is also native to Southern Europe and along with the Mediterranean. And it says that the name fennel originated from the Greek word for marathon, where the Greeks fought against the Persians who fought on the field of fennel. So a lot of things get named because of the region they were grown in. So this is one of those little tidbits. So fennel a lot of times is likened to licorice because it does have the flavor, and especially for the fennel bulb, it can be quite strong when it's raw. But you can eat the fennel bulb, and I believe I covered this in the vegetable edition. You can roast it. You can basically do anything you would with, say, a potato. You can steam it, mash it, fry it. It's really good sliced up or diced up into salads, or if you roast it, the licorice flavor pretty much goes away and it actually turns a little bit sweet. So with fennel, it does come in seed form and it's a little bit larger than the cumin, as you can see. It does have the licorice smell. It's also called anise. If you're not sure if you like the flavor or not, you can, or can't find it, you can also substitute caraway seeds. It's a little bit different flavor, but it's pretty close if you're not sure, you can't find it for a recipe. Fennel also comes in powdered form, and then it also is available with the pollen. And the pollen you can use to sprinkle on top of a dish, more of a garnish, less of cooking into the dish. It is a little bit higher in flavor and aroma, but it gives, again, that nice little surprise kick of flavor without necessarily being overpowering. So fennel is used in a lot of times on the interior recipe or back end, so that it's there but you're not aware. A lot of sausages have fennel, or like Italian baked goods for cookies or crackers or the little breadsticks. It's, again, a nice little flavor to add in there for a little extra pop when you're not expecting it. It's worth giving it a try. It really is not overpowering, but again, it's one of those, a little goes a long way. So if you're not sure if you're going to like it, I would suggest starting off with maybe half the amount of recipe calls for, seeing how you like it, and if you're okay with the taste, then add a little bit more. But it is not as strong as you might think, and it's worth trying just a little bit. The thing with spices and herbs is if you're not sure if it's something you're going to like, get the smallest amount that you can. Some of the stores like Sprouts, Whole Foods, and I'm not sure if Winco is still doing it during the pandemic, but you can get small amounts to try it and see if it's something that you're going to want to buy a larger thing of. However, don't buy the Costco size unless you really like a spice or you know that you're going to use it a lot, because it will lose potency over time. You're going to want to store them in a dark area away from heat and light. So sitting on the kitchen counter and the pretty spice racks are great, but half the time when you buy the big spice racks like that, you only use a portion of what's there. The rest of it loses potency, and you probably have at least half of them you're not going to use in your cooking. So it's better to just buy a little bits that you need and store them that way. There's also the small bags you can get in the spice aisle that it's maybe ½ ounce at most. And again, that's a good way of trying the spices and herbs in a smaller portion to see if you like them. Experiment without spending a whole lot of money. I will say, once you start playing around with the spices and herbs, you'll start having a lot more fun, and you can vary up your dish with, maybe a teaspoon or ½ teaspoon of this or that, and change the flavor and liven everything up. So fennel, as I said earlier, has really lacy fronds. Sometimes they're mistaken for dill. They can be substituted sometimes in the recipe. It depends what you're doing, but the flavors are just distinct enough that unless you're sure what the flavor exchange is going to be, I would just stick with the recipe. However, fennel works really well with citrus. So if you're doing, say, a salmon or a trout, some other white fish, you can layer the fennel fronds with lemon slices or orange slices over the fish, drizzle it with a little bit of olive oil and salt, and bake it or roast it on the coals or in the oven, and it turns out really well that way. Or you can put a few of the fronds in water to help flavor it. We're all trying to drink more water because it's more healthy, and that's one way of adding a little bit extra flavor without any extra calories. Alright, so we're getting near the end. We only have a few left. The next one is going to be dill. Now, dill is a very lacy little plant. This is a dried version. I haven't broken the leaves down yet, but as you can see, it's very light and very delicate, very similar to fennel. It does have a different aroma to it and quite a different flavor, but you can use them interchangeably. So dill initially was native to Russia, Western Africa, and the Mediterranean, and it was another one of the herbs and spices that was mentioned both in the Bible and in ancient Egyptian writings. So as you can see, most of the herbs and spices have had quite a journey traveling around the world in order to liven up the cuisine and making everybody a lot happier. So it actually is in the same family with celery. So they're all fairly similar and have a similar application a lot of times, but the flavors are just a little bit different. Dill is the herb that you think of pickles, dill pickles. So it can be used for a lot more. I like using it with my potato salad, deviled eggs, pretty much any egg dish or vegetable dish with a cream. If you have a ranch dressing fiend in the family, ranch dressing and buttermilk are the two main flavors that are distinctive for ranch dressing. So they work really well with that to pair for, say, au gratin, potatoes au gratin or vegetable au gratin, as a way of adding, again, that little bit of a tart kick in there without people being able necessarily to pinpoint what it is that makes it that much better. Let's see. So make sure I give everybody the information that I can on this. You can use the leaves dried or fresh, and there is dill seed as well. I don't use dill seed that often. I'm more likely to use the dill weed because of the type of cooking that I like to do. But again, you can toast it up like any of the other seeds and use it in your recipes the same way. It is a fairly fragile herb, so like the fennel, if you're going to add it more towards the end of the recipe as opposed to the beginning. Otherwise, the flavor could not be as pronounced as if you add it later. And also try to use the fresh whenever possible, but the dill does keep a lot better, and as long as you have a small enough quantity, you're not going to notice a difference in the recipe if you have, the small bottle, because it is real easy to use in a reasonable amount of time. So dill has kind of a sweet, sharp, grassy flavor. I think of it as a little on the tart side. It works really well, like I said earlier, in dishes where there's citrus or cream or cheese. So like for a potato or macaroni salad, it's a really great addition to that. The flowers look like little upside down umbrellas with little yellow flowers, and those can be eaten as well or used in pickling jars or on top of salads for garnish, and they're edible, so it is a pretty way to accessorize and also improve the flavor of a dish. The flowers also are one of the plants that will draw honeybees to your garden, and it is a good companion plant to put with either cilantro, coriander, and fennel. They work well together and they're very easy to grow. Let's see. Oh, and the last little tidbit for dill is that it is used as an antibacterial herb like garlic. So it's a nice little way to up your health a little bit and add a little punch to your dish. All right, so we're on to the last one, and it's my favorite spice pretty much. I think coriander has become a close second, but nutmeg is number one for me. So for those of you that follow the Food Network, you'll know that Alton Brown carries a nutmeg everywhere he goes. When he came to Fresno, he had one in his pocket. He exchanged it with a member of the audience for theirs. 2 years later, when he came back through, he had another nutmeg. The same person had one also, and they exchanged again. They travel well. As long as they're kept in a sealed container, they're good almost indefinitely. When they're grated in the ground form, the flavor dissipates fairly quickly, so it's always better to grate it when you need it. On the good part of that is a little goes a long way. It's a little tiny amount, but it has a big kick. So what I like, I know Alton doesn't like unitaskers. This is not. Only does a few things though. But it's a little teeny tiny grinder or a grater, but it works really well for nutmegs. It's really easy to clean and it's really cute. And one nutmeg lasts a long time. So even if you get a small container of them, 3 to 5, it's going to last you for quite a while. So nutmeg is actually more versatile than you think. Most people think of eggnog when you hear nutmeg. It's a winter spice. It's in a lot of the pumpkin pie seasonings, etc. It's good for more than that. If you've ever had a really good lasagna or mac and cheese or a bechamel, a white sauce, chances are it has nutmeg in it. If you like spätzle, which are teeny tiny little noodles that look like raindrops, that has nutmeg in it as well. And actually most of the seasonings here today are used in sausages. So fennel especially is used in a lot of sausage blends. It provides a really good balance, especially with pork, as a way to round out the flavors and give it that much more flavor. So nutmeg comes from the nutmeg tree, which actually has 2 different spices on it. Nutmeg is one of them, and the exterior coating of this, which is red, like a red webbing, is called mace, and it's a lighter flavor than nutmeg. We're not going to cover that here today. It's not used that much. It's starting to get a little bit more popular than it used to be, but nutmeg is more readily available and is actually less expensive. So let's see. Some of the seasonings that nutmeg can be paired with, like I mentioned earlier, the winter warming spices like cinnamon, ginger, allspice. I'm not sure why they're considered the winter warming spices, other than they work really well with pumpkin or sweet potatoes or yams. I do know that nutmeg does work really well with the hardier squash like butternut squash or the acorn squash. Grate a little bit over it with a little bit of olive oil or butter, salt it, stick it in the oven and roast it for 350 degrees for about 30 to 40 minutes, and you have a really good side dish. Really easy to do. Nutmeg seems to make a lot of things better. Again, it's one of those, just get one and try a little bit, see how you like it. Use a light hand, because a little does go a long way with that. I found out the hard way one time. And it's one of those, you have to commit to it when you do it, but it's well worth the adventure. So just a couple more little tidbits about nutmeg in case you wind up on Jeopardy. It's good to know. So one nutmeg tree takes about 5 years to come to maturity, and a fully grown nutmeg tree can grow 2,000 nutmegs a year. So in case you get on Jeopardy and get that question, you can thank me later. Some of the health benefits of nutmeg. Let's see, let's go down the list here. It has the ability to relieve pain, reduce insomnia, and help on digestion. There's a bunch of other things too. Again, this is just part of the uses that herbs and spices have been used for centuries. However, I do need to say that I am not a medical professional. This is not intended as a diagnosis or any sort of treatment recommendation. If you have a medical condition or are not sure, check with your medical provider just to make sure that it won't have any counterindications if you are taking any medication. So with that disclaimer out of the way, I want to make sure that everybody is fully comfortable with experimenting with some herbs and spices to liven up their dinner. So I hope I was able to answer a few thoughts or questions you might have had regarding some herbs and spices you've seen but weren't too sure of what they could be used for or what to do with them. I do recommend checking out the Fresno County Library. They have a good amount of resources, both hard books and the online ebooks available. Check them out. They are a good resource to pull from. Don't be afraid to go down your spice aisle, try new things. Look for a new cookbook whenever you can. It does liven it up quite a bit. And remember, life is too short for bad food.